So, Angela, why don't you start by telling us where you're from and when you got started teaching online? I know Phil will be back in a sec.
Okay, well, I live up in northern British Columbia, Canada. It's a fairly rural location, and I live here on a beautiful acreage with my husband and 3 children, and I'm a full-time artist, and usually that means starving artist, but I've been fortunate to find teaching online. I've been doing that for about 3 years, and I started out just doing some demonstration videos on YouTube, and that was even longer ago, probably about 2009, where I started just kind of fooling around with YouTube. And that kind of evolved and led into teaching online through teachable.com.
Great. And what led you to choose Teachable versus, at that time, did you know about Udemy or Skillshare or these other platforms? And why are you sticking with Teachable? I mean, I'm using Teachable too, but I think a lot of people wonder, should they just be on Teachable? Should they be on both? What's your perspective?
Well, I have, I've kind of sampled, I put my toe in the water of several different platforms. When I first started out, like I said, I had a YouTube channel and that was it. And the thing about YouTube is it's a really good way to kind of test out your content. And so for me, as a mom of 3 little kids, kind of fooling around with watercolor at home, and I was serious about my painting, and but yet not really seeing a way to actually take the next step and make it a profession. And so anyhow, I just had, I would have these light bulb moments with my painting where I just had to put it out there and share it with somebody. And so while the kids were napping, I'd quickly do a video, or while they were playing, because sometimes in some of my earlier videos, you can hear them screaming in the background. They still love screaming. And and it was interesting to see that I never expected that I would get the response that I did. People seemed to resonate. What I did seemed to resonate with people, even though the quality was poor, the angle was terrible. I wasn't very good at shooting videos back then. And when something does well on YouTube, I don't know, I think as people, when we have one success, we kind of want to build on that. And so it right away led to this idea of how can I capture these random people who show up on my YouTube channel and bring them into, maybe just connect with them more directly and have some targeted content that maybe is more structured. With YouTube, you just don't know if they're going to ever come back to your channel. And so to be able to have build a course just really appealed to me. And at that time, I tried out Skillshare, looked online, and they seemed to really appeal to kind of the artsy audience, people who are interested in that kind of field. So it was a good fit for me. And of course, starting with a company like Skillshare, you get the opportunity to kind of see how to build a course. They give a lot of guidance, and I followed their instructions and built my first course on them. And then after my first course went out and I actually saw that I could make a little money and connect with an audience, they changed their format somewhat. They changed their terms of service. They changed their marketing strategy. They changed their membership payment plan. And with all the changes, you really don't feel like you have a lot of control. You know, they get to decide how they're going to do things. And even if you're locked into an earlier contract, how they treat their members, their users, is going to, be completely up to them. And so that was when I started to think about owning my own content in a more complete way. And at that time, I think just one of my connections on Skillshare happened to mention Teachable. It was called Fedora back then, and I think they were only about 6 months old. And I went on their site and I looked at their terms of use, and there was like 3 sentences, it was like, you own the content, you set the price, we don't have any, you connect with your customers. And that was really appealing to me. And so I signed on with Teachable, and I really haven't looked back since. I had looked at some other ones, but that one's just the one that appealed to me the most. At the time as well, they were a small company, so I got to feel like I had some input into how they built their company and built their brand, and connect directly with the owners and the people managing the site. So that was really cool, and it worked into them using me as an example. They still use me as an example in their marketing of just the regular everyday mom who built a career through teaching online. And while I think sometimes the way they promote My income sounds it's a little bit on the high side, a little bit overly, I had a really great month and they use that as their example, but actually they have been really supportive to me. And I think it's been just a great choice. I love having that say over how I build my business and how I own my content.
That's really great. And I think a lot of people will be inspired by that, because I want to kind of hear more about, like, when you're on Teachable, you have to drive your own sales. You have to build that audience. If you don't have an audience, it's hard to make sales, I think, on Teachable. And so for a lot of people starting out, they think, oh, I'm just going to put on Udemy and Udemy is going to promote my course, or Skillshare is going to promote my course, which actually isn't how it works at all. Anyways, you still have to promote your course to have success on those other platforms. But given that, you're promoted as the everyday mom who has this online course, like, there's a lot of people like you, I think, that have a skill. I mean, even my mom, she's an artist and she's talked about creating courses before, and of course I should just go over and help her. But like, for someone who's trying to do it themselves, like, what is your best advice for just starting out and getting a course on Teachable and then starting to build that traffic? Because by the time you started selling on Teachable, you already had your YouTube channel. But for people who don't have a YouTube channel or a website, what's the best place to begin, or how do people just start?
I think it's going to be the same as a lot of advice they're probably already getting, and that is just know what you have to offer. Be really like, for me, when I started to think about teaching online, there's a lot of people teaching watercolor out there. So what's my spin? What is unique to me, my strength in watercolor? And that was, for me, painting loose and fluid. And so that was where I went with my very first course, was let's just focus on that one aspect that I know I do really well and that other people might be looking to learn. And then from there, the second thing I would say is know your audience. Think about who's if you have an audience already for what you're doing, if you're connecting with people in the real world or through YouTube or email or some other way, find a way, just really think about who they are. And for me, a large part of my audience is middle-aged women. And so the deal with that means that as middle-aged women, they're probably not going to be as much on Tumblr or Reddit, some of the places where Teachable suggests you market your courses. So I know I don't need to really spend as much time marketing there as I would maybe on Facebook, through email. Instagram is starting to open up even for that older demographic. Doesn't mean I'm not connecting with younger people, but certainly the majority, the bulk of my sales come from a certain demographic, and I want to market to them first of all to get that, bigger success.
And that is like so key. Dave and I were actually at Udemy Live, which was Udemy's first live conference for instructors a few weeks ago. And we went to a session where they talked about the 7 different types of learners and how important it is to know, like, are you trying to teach, millennials who are just out of college looking for a job, or are you trying to teach retirees who are just learning for fun, or professionals who are looking for an advancement in their career? So your advice for people to find that audience and really talk to that audience and go to where that audience is, whether it's on social media or YouTube or whatever, I think that's really good advice. So yeah, that's good.
Well, Angela, I was going to ask, is it primarily your YouTube audience that is taking advantage of your courses, or what are some of the, and this might be on our list already, but what are some of the marketing channels that you take advantage of, and how do you drive your traffic, I guess, is the main question.
Well, and I guess I have to use the word funnel, and I don't like it. I don't like all those marketing words. I don't use, my eyes glaze over when I start reading about launch pages and sales funnels. But really, it is kind of trying to, because, with YouTube, everything's on there for free. And so it can be really difficult if you're thinking, I'm going to reach out to YouTube and they're just going to come and buy in droves. So you got to play a long game, I think. And so for me, I have a free course that I offer. So that's number one starting to build that relationship to take my YouTube audience or anybody who's grabbing free content from me, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. I'm starting to promote some of my content on Instagram as well. So primarily that's where I go first of all, but more than that, it's my mailing list. And so my goal is not to get my YouTube audience to buy a course. My goal is to get my free audience, wherever they are, to get on my mailing list. And I really work hard on my mailing list. Last year, just about a year ago, I decided I was going to send out emails every week. And as an artist, that's a big deal, because most of the artists that I'm on their mailing list, I get maybe quarterly emails, and maybe not even that often. We're not very structured. And so to commit to emailing every week, even more than every month, I mean, every month seemed like a big deal, and then to go to every week is a little bit scary, but it was awesome for me because I'm able to send short emails. I don't have to tell them 3 months worth of content in one email. And I can send short emails. I can keep my content very specific, and I can really try to offer good value through my emails. So I'm not just snagging them on a mailing list and then sell. I believe in being generous with what I have to offer. They get a lot of free advice from me on YouTube, on my email list, through Facebook. And I'm very personal. If they email me directly, they get a personal email back, and I'm happy to address their comments. The only thing I don't do is I don't critique people's paintings by email, because I just would be overwhelmed with giving tips on how to make your paintings better. So I'm playing a long game. I'm building a relationship with these people by being someone they can trust, someone who's not going to spam them and sell to them, and someone who's just, approachable and a real person, very honest about my own watercolor journey.
That's great.
What would you say? What would you say a typical email looks like? Like, if I were receiving one of your emails, what would it look like, or how would it be formatted? What kind of topics do you cover?
Well, I just sent one out today, and I don't have any kind of scientific structure. I just kind of try to, keep an eye on my content to make sure that I'm not selling too much. I just launched a new course in the end of June. And so the end of June and then the first week of July, I was really promoting that new course, talking about all the great stuff that was in it, and also linking to my free content that went alongside that course. I had a companion video on YouTube. So even though they might have said, you know what, I'm not going to ever buy something from this person, and I'm not interested in buying this new course, they still get a free video to kind of show them what they might be missing. And so I always try to have a link to, here's some content you can actually use. And today's email was, I just shared a watercolor tip. That was something that I've actually talked about in some of my classes, but I have a lot of new people on the list who might not have heard it before. I have to remind myself sometimes that I can repeat myself, because you get new people all the time who haven't heard this stuff. And then just a reminder that, hey, if you do want to get this new course, here's where to find it. Try to always include lots of beautiful paintings, and that's the main thing. Links to make it easy to find me and to find my content.
That's great. I think building an email list is the most important thing for all of us here. And I have a couple questions about that. One is, for people out there, we're probably wondering how many people are on your list and about how fast is your list growing. I don't know if you know how many subscribers per week or per month you're adding. And then I had a second part of that question was, when people sign up for your newsletter or your list, do you have an automated sequence, or do they just sign up and start getting like the weekly emails that you're writing every week?
Well, I like to say that marketing is kind of like parenting. You could always do it better. Parenting and saving money. You could always do a better job of it. And I'd love to have an automated sequence. I haven't set it up yet. I just haven't made the time. Mm-hmm. So they just get in wherever I happen to be. So this last 2 weeks, I've had a huge growth in my email list, because I'm doing a big giveaway, and the $400 watercolor giveaway, where it is a marketing push to get people on my email list. Using King Sumo giveaways, I have offered watercolor kit and then the complete enrollment in my online classes to one lucky winner. And so that's really seen some list growth. In the last 2 weeks, I've gone from Around 6,500 names on my list to over 8,000. So that was really
Nice.
cool to hit that milestone. And I
great.
think last year when I started marketing, sending those weekly emails, I was at about 700 names for contacts.
Wow.
So I've had huge growth in the last year. And, you know, it makes sense to me to expend the most effort in building my list, because then that's, you know, a reliable way to connect with people, and much more than even to spend a lot of time in adding new YouTube videos, although I am trying to be consistent with that kind of thing as well.
Great. And are people just at the end of your YouTube video or in your YouTube descriptions, do you just say, hey, sign up for my newsletter? Or are people just finding your website and see it in the sidebar? Like, where are people seeing how to sign up for your list?
Again, I'm a little bit helter-skelter. I usually try to promote whatever is new and happening on my site. So generally it's visit my learning site, which is learn.angelafehr.com. That is where I have my free course, which will be the first thing they see. That should suck them in. And then with the free course, anybody who signs up to my online site, there is actually an automated email that goes out to them. Teachable integrates with Mixpanel so that you can send automated emails through that. Although I don't use it as my email management program, they do send out just a little info email when someone signs up saying, hey, did you know I'm on Facebook? Did you know you can sign up for my mailing list? And if you don't, you're going to miss out on a lot of good stuff. So yeah.
Got it.
So that's interesting. I just noticed that when I go to learn.angelafehr.com, that's really basically your school. And if they look carefully enough, they can see there is a free course. Do you specifically say, go check out my free course at this URL, or do you just kind of send them there as kind of a main link?
Usually I mention the free course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's good. I like that. I like it because it's an interesting, different take on what Phil and I have been talking about, which is let's send people to a free mini course, but first get their name and email address, you know, before they get to the free mini course. This is interesting too, because it's a little more direct, because you're sending them to your school and they'll find your free course there. And when they get onto your free course, you have their email address anyway, right? Because are you using some kind of integration to get those people into a separate email list?
Well, and that's one thing that I would love Teachable to change a little bit with, because with the Canadian spam laws, and I'm in Canada, you need to have a double opt-in.
Right.
And with the free courses, like with a paid course, then they're under contract to me, right? They've purchased something, so I am legally able to email them. But if they're getting something for free from me, then I need that double opt-in. I don't have it with Teachable. And so I need to, that's where the automated email, hey, just sign up. And what you mentioned, doing getting the name and email address first, probably a good idea, and I should look into that. Again, I just so much of I guess I would say this to anybody who's wanting to build an online course. You're gonna want to have everything perfect before you start, and that's not always the best thing to do. Get it to where it works, and then you can tweak it after. And sometimes, like for me, I'm having a lot of success with what I'm doing, and so I'm not super motivated to tweak all those little things, and I maybe should be, but I'll kind of get to it when I get to it, kind of thing. So,
no, I totally agree with you, and I'm sure Phil would agree, and everyone else on this blab would agree that we are all at different stages of getting things right. I mean, Phil does things, you know, in certain areas far better than I could ever do, and I do things in certain areas better than he could do probably. But the thing about it is, we're constantly working on improving every aspect. There's so many aspects to look at. There's so much to look at, you know, that
again, it's marketing and parenting and saving money. You just could always do it better.
Yeah. So, one of the things I loved, Angela emailed me back and forth, and one of the things that I love you saying was that the results of the effort you put into creating online courses or YouTube videos and what you're doing now, the results are relatively immediate compared to raising kids, where it takes 10 to 15 years to see if your kids end up being good people.
Yeah, there are so many parallels. I was thinking about sales today, and I was thinking, you could learn a lot about sales from a kid. My children know that if they approach me at a certain time of day, I'm probably more likely to say yes to that request than maybe another time. And they got to phrase it just right. And there's a whole negotiation. And we do the same thing. I mean, we really should be doing the same thing with our marketing. Look at your audience, figure out when to approach them and how to get the best result.
Yeah, totally. One of the things you said was that you recently did a mini course you launched, and I don't know if that's the one you were talking about that you did in June. And I don't know if you want to share how much you made with that in 1 month. But what is this strategy that you had mentioned in the email about doing a new mini course each month? And how are you? Is that just what's different from that versus your other courses?
Well, the other courses I have, sorry, I'm just trying to answer a question too. The other courses I have are evergreen courses. So I launched them, they're a little bit larger. So they range in between like $39 to $100. And I like the $100 courses. They take a lot to put together, but they are much more thorough in content. But again, you got to work a little harder to sell those. And so I have a very loyal following of students who will basically buy anything I put out there. And I couldn't tell you what the percentage is right off the top of my head, but I want to keep giving to these students who've already bought everything I have. And so the best way for me to do that at this time and with the time I have was to put together these mini courses. And right now I'm trying to do one every 2 months. So I launched the first one in, I think, end of April, and that was my tree clinic, and it was just all about painting trees. I think 6 lessons or so. And so, I mean, the trick is always to limit it because I want to just pour in everything I know, and I always try to. And that one had, I decided to do a limited time enrollment for that to drive a little urgency, for the purchase. And to make it kind of a special thing for those people who are loyal customers and have been for a number of years. And that worked really well. I compared it to another course I'd launched, and it outperformed that course that I had launched the fall, I guess, and in much less time. So that was really cool to see. It was a good confirmation that this is a good direction to go. And my plan is, like I said, to do another course every 2 months, so I just launched my second one, which I titled Lovely Loose Florals. So it's all focused on a floral theme. And that one, again, I priced them at $3 US, which I think is a reasonable amount. And kind of fits that idea of mini as the content. And that one is on track to perform just as well as the tree clinic, which made me about $9,000 in sales in a month. So I think that's a pretty good paycheck. And I mean, really, you're looking at 2 months work because, it takes me a month to put the content together, a month to market it, kind of thing. So that's why the every other month thing works for me right now.
That's really amazing right there. $9,000 for a mini course that you're opening up for just a limited amount of time, selling for $30. That's a good amount of people buying that course. Do you have any plans for releasing that content in the future or redoing a mini course with that same?
Well, I guess I have 2 options, and I'm kind of weighing them right now. I could launch the same course every year, just have it open for a month, next year around the same time. I'm not sure I'm crazy about that idea, although it would reach those students who, didn't hear about me in time to buy it. The other option would be to bundle my mini courses, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards, because then I have a bigger ticket item to sell. So take, the 3 or 4 mini courses I put together this year. Since I started in April, I won't get 6 done or anything, and just offer those at in the new year sometime as a group of courses, which I like the idea of doing. And Teachable lets you bundle courses so that you can easily sell them at a different price point.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that keeping it as a month-long workshop could be a cool option too, because imagine if after a couple of years you have one of these courses that you could release every month of the year and you only open it up once a month
Mhm.
or once per year, the rate that your email list is growing right now is going crazy. And so there's going to be a lot of new people that are going to be interested, or people who were already on but missed out. So I don't want to like sway you either way, because I don't know which way would work better. I don't know what Dave thinks, but I think that's a cool idea too.
Yeah. Well, no, that's good feedback. I'm like I said, I'm still thinking about what's going to work best for me.
Yeah,
or do a little bit of both. I don't know.
It's interesting to me because Phil and I both come from, buy it now, get it, buy it whenever you want. It's always available. So it's kind of interesting to see this limited time offer. I'm wondering, Angela, how did you learn this stuff? I mean, because this is a different animal than what we're used to on Udemy, and also it's different than what we're used to in just the traditional online marketing world of buy an ebook for X amount, get your download, and you're done. We're used to the very transactional. But I guess what I want to know is, have you had help from Teachable in terms of learning this process of what you're doing and how you're bundling and all that kind of thing? Or is this something that you're creating on your own?
Yeah, now I have to think. Teachable does send out really energetic and fun emails, blog posts that offer different content ideas. And sometimes I feel like they're geared a little more towards the life coach kind of idea. You can teach an online course and let me show you how. And selling how to teach or how to succeed at something is a little different than selling an actual product. But yeah, I mean, you're always, I don't pay a lot for marketing information. I love signing up for free webinars from somebody, but I very rarely, almost never, I think I might have spent $12 on marketing information last year. So I like grabbing all the free content I can and then, juggling it a little bit, seeing what holds up against what the other thing and trying to, because there's always differing opinions. One person says, sell a $300 course. One person says sell a cheap course. When, it's all over the place. So I like kind of picking and choosing what I'm going to follow. And I believe it was Teachable, or, there's a lot of courses I see out there where they really want to push you into making that quick decision. And I don't want anybody to feel pressured about buying my course. And that's why there's a whole month of enrollment period rather than this 48 hours or whatever you might want. In fact, I had somebody, one marketing guru for artists, that they do live consultation calls. And they actually kicked me off the consultation call I had scheduled because I told them I wasn't ready to make a decision like right away at the end of the call. And I was like, well, okay, then if you don't want my money that bad, or, if you don't really think that you can talk me into it over a longer period of time, I'm not interested.
So one thing we were talking about, I don't know if you heard us, but one thing you mentioned in the email too was how teaching online has helped you grow your brand as a professional artist. How can you speak a little bit to that, and what does that really mean, and what's going on with that?
Well, it kind of all goes hand in hand. I mean, obviously, as a teacher, then you set yourself up as an authority in that area. And so, I've had that opportunity to kind of establish my brand in that way as an authority on watercolor. And what's really weirds me out is when I'll get an email saying, oh, Angela, I love your work and that of this artist who's somebody who I admire and respect as being way up above me in the profession. And so that's really amazing to hear that I'm getting that kind of respect. So that's been exciting. And I think it's made me, well, yeah, just really getting that brand recognition through teaching, being more visible, just connecting with people. Really, selling art is about telling a story, and I really get to strengthen my ability to do that by teaching art, by talking about what I do instead of hiding out in the studio making paintings and then kind of stuttering when it comes to talking about them. So I like that I've gotten that kind of experience, I guess is the word, and it's helped me to be able to reach out a little bit more. Definitely, I've gotten originally when I was thinking about being a professional artist, living in a rural part of northern Canada, I felt like I was in a pretty small pond to reach out to people, and so now here all of a sudden I have students and fans from all over the world. And I love the internet for that. I love the chance that artists have now in this day and age with the internet to really to take ownership of their own careers instead of depending on galleries. And so I love that I've been able to do that and brainstorm different ways to get my name out and to reach out to people. And it's not about really being famous or even selling a lot of paintings. For me as an artist, creating art, it feels like I come full circle when I have the chance to share it with people. And whether that's sharing my knowledge, what I've learned as an artist, or sharing my paintings, it just feels like it completes the cycle, completes the connection when I get to, you know, kind of put it out there. And it's very satisfying, very fulfilling.
That's great. I was, I don't want to go backwards too much, but something I wanted to ask you a while ago was just what equipment are you using to create your courses? You talked about how when you started your YouTube channel, you just kind of started bare bones. You had kids crying in the background. What, for people who are just starting out and maybe even teaching art classes specifically, do you have advice on how to create an art class, and what video equipment and audio equipment and editing equipment are you using?
Well, I've always tried to not spend a lot of money, especially when you're first starting out and you haven't sold anything yet. Use what you have and make it work. People, you know, the content is what matters more than how it's delivered, at least especially in that early stage. And so I started out with just, a crappy little video cam. I couldn't do HD or anything like that. And editing, I just used the free software that came with my computer. Now I have spent a little bit of money, and it's hard with art because you need to film close to your work surface, but you need to film a large area. And so I'm still looking for the perfect kind of wide angle that will work with what I'm doing. Right now, I'm using actually the same webcam that I'm using right now. Works fairly well for when I'm doing live classes, live broadcasts. And then I just use, actually lately I've been enjoying the camera that comes with my Nikon digital mirrorless camera, which is a Nikon 1J5. My mic is just this little Samson Go mic, and it's just small and portable. And most of the time when I'm filming a class, my mouth is inches from the camera. So my problem is actually picking up too much sound, breathing and getting all excited, and your heart rate accelerates and you start panting as you're painting something really wonderful. It sounds a little gross, but that's more of an issue than not being able to get good sound. And so I always have to edit out all my snufflings in my painting classes. And I'm still kind of using what I have. I'm not, and then the hardest part for me was getting the camera at the right angle. And I actually have just a standard tripod that I have to weight and tilt, and then I film everything upside down, and then I have to flip it in my editing software. And right now I'm using AVS Video Editor, which again, an inexpensive video editing program that does everything I need it to do at this time.
Great. And that's so great, because I think, I don't know if my mom's going to watch this, but if she does, that's like the perfect, like, basic equipment that she would need to get started, or anyone that would need to get started. And for someone that's looking to create an art class, how are your courses structured? What tips do you have for, you mentioned like you had a mini course on how to do trees, but like for that, or do you structure your courses in a way? Do you just kind of set your camera down and start painting and go until you're done with the painting, or how does that work?
Well, I filmed in January, I filmed a course with craftsy.com. They flew me out to Denver, and I got to get a little bit of experience with working with a professional production crew. And that was a real interesting experience, because, I just, at home, I just wing it and delete all the outtakes. But with Craftsy, I had to be very structured in writing a script for my courses, which was very useful to help me to learn a little bit more about making my courses more structured. Although I do kind of like keeping them a little bit looser, just that feeling of working with me in my studio. I like to mimic what my studio working method would be. So in my recent courses, what I like to do is warm up with exercises and then move into exercises to help you warm up, to introduce some basic concepts. Then we develop the concepts, and then we put it all together in, you know, some serious paintings. And that's worked well for me. So I do start now with an outline. I'm still not writing scripts or anything like that, because I like the natural delivery of how I would teach at home in my studio. I also think it's important for me to teach here in my studio. I do have local classes that I teach a couple of times a year, and that gives me the opportunity to really observe beginning painters and you know, address the specific issues that they may have.
Got it.
I
Awesome.
think you might have had a second part to that question, and I've completely forgotten what it is.
Yeah, no, I think that was great.
Okay.
Just, yeah, about the structure. No, that was really good. Yeah. I know it's like 5:10, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but one of my last questions was, where do you hope to be in 5 years from now?
Well, I'm kind of ambitious. So I like to think that, you know, in 5 years, well, in 10 years time, I'd love to see my name recognition right up there with some of the better known artists in the world. I would love to see that. It's thrilling to think that that could be a possibility. And from there, I think just becoming a better painter is actually huge for me. And as a teacher, I keep telling my students, I may have 20 years experience in painting, but I'm going to be lifelong learning this craft and wanting to create a more fuller expression of my art. And so to me, it's always exciting to think where I might be 5 years down the road, because my art is going to continue to evolve, which means I'm not going to run out of things to teach. So, you know, it's exciting to think of that. And I would love to be one of the foremost authorities on teaching watercolor in the world. I mean, that would be just awesome.
I think you're going to do it. And I think that's good advice for people, just to practice what they're preaching, practice what they're teaching. And you don't already have to be that top authority figure to teach it. But to be a good teacher, I think you actually have to practice what you're doing. And it's the same with me. I do teach video editing, video production, photography. If I'm not continuing to test things, experiment myself and get better myself, then I find that there are times where I don't, and I find like I don't know what to teach, or I can't teach as good as when I'm trying new things and I'm figuring out new things. So I think that's really good advice, just to practice what you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have one final question, Angela, and that is, what advice would you give to an artist out there? Because, you know, we were talking while you were trying to get back on, we were talking about how for a lot of creatives, they have this passion, this thing that they just love doing. And the ultimate would be to be able to turn that into a way to support itself, like the passion supports itself. So what advice would you give to our artists and aspiring artists, and maybe even just creatives in general, for doing what you've already done and what you're heading towards, to have the kind of success that you're having?
Well, I think that's that stupid phrase, do what you love and the money will follow. I don't know if I agree with that entirely, but that idea of there's a passion for you out there, and it's going to be fulfilling for you to chase that and to embrace it. Even if it doesn't bring you financial success or visible success to other people, to have that satisfaction of finding that thing you love and pursuing it to the fullest. It's, you know, I mean, that's much more satisfying than saying, hey, I've got this $1 million idea of something I don't really care about, you know, but I'm going to make big money doing it, but feel like a sellout. I'm very fortunate you guys have, you're calling this a passive income, but I mean, I'm working on it all the time. It doesn't feel very passive, but because it is a passion, it doesn't feel like work. It's so enjoyable. And I love marketing as well as painting and teaching art. So, you know, I get to do all of these things that kind of feel like it's always a fun adventure. And so, you know, finding that thing and then just embracing it and recognizing too, like I have big dreams, but I also have a family. And so I need to be very careful to balance that. And recognize that, you know what, my dreams shouldn't come at a cost to my family. And so I have learned to say no to a few things. One thing I had always dreamed of doing was traveling to teach watercolor. And I just can't leave my family at this time more than maybe once or twice a year. And so that dream's been set aside. And I've had to, that's one reason I teach online, is to be creative in being able to do what I dreamed of doing, but just in a way that doesn't, hurt my family. And so I think that idea of pursuing something you love to the fullest at a way that doesn't have a cost to your personal life. And I'm really thankful that I have that in watercolor.
That's awesome. Well, I think we've covered some good stuff. I thank you so much, Angela, for joining us. I mean, you've really, I don't know if you heard this while you were working to get back on, but you've really been a fascinating guest in the sense that you've taken a model that a lot of us find difficult, online teaching through a self-hosted platform, and you've made it work, And so those of us that are kind of heavily reliant on Udemy, where they bring some of the traffic and they bring some of the students and everything, we're looking at online teaching with a new eye, thanks to you. And I'm sure a lot of our
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, no, it's been kind of thrilling and exciting. And early on, it was a risk because, I didn't know if the people would come. And it's pretty exciting when they do. And it's confirmation, I guess, that you're moving in the right direction. So thank you for having me. Thanks for bearing with my technical issues and my thunderstorm internet connection stuff. So yeah.
No problem.
Great. And everyone, just a reminder, but people can find Angela's website at Angela Fehr, her name right there, FEHR.com, and see her watercolor courses. And I think the best way that I learn how other people will do things or how to do things well is to just stalk them and see their website. So I would sign up for her newsletter just to see how she does it.
Exactly, yeah.
Check her YouTube channel out and learn exactly from what she's actually doing.
I actually do have a special, like if you go onto my website and sign up for the mailing list, I actually have a special list for art instructors. I send out every now and then, I'll send out some tips. If you're looking to teach art online, I send an email just specifically geared in that direction. I'd love to build a course on that someday, just haven't made the time yet.
Awesome.
Great. Why don't we put your website on the chat there? Is it angelafehr.com?
That's
right. I got it right here.
Okay. There you go. Great. Well, as we wind up this show, I want to thank Angela again for being our guest. I'd love to have you on again. I think that there's a lot of questions we didn't feel like we got to. So you might be hearing from us again.
That would be just fun.
Thank you all for joining us. We're going to be here every week. Next week, we're interviewing Miguel Hernandez, one of the earliest Udemy instructors. So he's seen a lot of changes happen in the Udemy marketplace, as well as some of the things he's doing in the media space. So if you want to be aware and learn about those, check out our Passive Income Show Facebook group. Is that thunder? Is that the rain we're hearing?
That's the rain, yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. That's intense.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. But again, be on the Passive Income Show Facebook group, because that's where we post the latest, greatest, newest, coolest stuff. I couldn't say that again if I tried. And we'll see you guys all next week. Thanks a bunch.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Angela. Have a good one. Stay dry.